Welcome back, people. Turn one, you know what it is. What a week. What a week. It's just fun. Like now I feel like things are moving on. We had obviously December and January where nobody really knew what was going on. Everyone was being quiet. Hadn't heard from Hamilton, hadn't heard from Mercedes or the FIA. Everyone's chucking their 2 cents in. But now we've got an exciting time. So quick little rundown. We've got news. This one's going to be like a news little chat, podcast, whatever you want to call it. Because obviously there's no racing going on. There's no, stuff to report on. So it's just like news and my general opinion on what's happened. Because obviously a lot has happened in the last week. So if you aren't already, so we're up to 60 now. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Hit that subscribe button. And if you don't already, hit that like. No matter what, whether you dislike it or not, just press like. It helps me out, and then we can grow together. And Twitter is going to be in the description as well. Follow me on Twitter. There's going to be Twitter is going to be like the accompanying to what I do here. So I'm going to give you these videos however often, but Twitter's going to be more live reaction, more kind of like interaction, that kind of thing. So Twitter's where I want to evolve to. So today we've got a fun schedule. We've got all the stuff that happened last week, or this week rather, all the announcements from the FIA and beyond. Then we're going to do a little recap on all the liveries that have come out. I mean, I've got some interesting thoughts on all of those because talked to a lot of people and different interpretations of what they're seeing. So I'm going to give you what I think about what's happened in the last week or so with the liveries. And just a general chit chat about all the news that's gone on, my take on and all the stuff you might be hearing. So, first and foremost, Michael Masi's out. Like I said, I don't know when I said it, probably after the Abu Dhabi race. Obviously after the Abu Dhabi race, might have been the reaction video or sometime after it. I was never, even at the time, I was never like, right, we need to sack this guy. He needs to pay for. I generally, as a person, I'm just not really that way inclined, especially when it's, you're in a job setting and, it's kind of mistakes were made. But having said that, obviously he needed to go. He needed to, whether it's sacked or moved on, he could not continue this season as the race director because how could come Australia, let's say Leclerc and Hamilton go wheel to wheel, and then he's got to sit there and award a penalty to Hamilton or something. People wouldn't respect any decision he makes going forward. And if you haven't got the respect of the people that you're supposed to be governing, then you just forget about it. So they made the right decision. It took ages, but the president came out with a statement a couple of days ago, and he said, he's out, being replaced by Niels Vitek and Eduardo Freitas. Vitek was DTM race director, and he's also done stuff in Formula 1, Formula 2 and Formula 3. So he's super experienced in race cars, but he's also done a bit in the actual formulas, which is interesting. And Eduardo Freitas is a World Endurance Championship long-term director. So these guys, I don't know almost anything apart from their names of what they've done. So as far as experience, they're there. So you're obviously the people involved in Formula 1 would have a very hands-on version of it, but if you've been involved in racing, certainly for 40 years like these guys, that's going to help. And they've been assisted by Herbie Blash. Now Herbie Blash, again, another guy who's been in Formula 1, was in Formula 1 for forever. He was the assistant to the previous race director. So a guy called Charlie Whiting, who died literally the day before the start of the 2019 season, I think it was. So Charlie Whiting was like the old head, like respected up and down the paddock, made decisions, was the race director for years and years. He died literally the night before, I think it was, practice session in Australia. Martin Brundle, in the weeks after, when we talk about Abu Dhabi, he mentioned Herbie Blash so many times. He said, Michael Masi needs that kind of a character involved. So Herbie Blash is going to be a senior advisor to these two. And I believe, based on what we've seen so far, it's going to be like a rotational, like they're going to be a one in, one out. I don't think they're both going to be doing it at the same time. Maybe they will be, but either way, there's going to be more people than just Michael Masi involved. That's number one. I've seen the memes all over Twitter are pretty hilarious about it's a motor race Toto. I mean, that quote from Michael, well, all the quotes to be fair, that little last exchange with Toto is gonna haunt him a little bit. But I mean, that part is funny. But losing your job is neither here nor there. He just couldn't continue that job. So I'm not. I wouldn't say I was delighted that he was gone, but I'm glad that as a sport now, we can actually sit there and listen to decisions being made and think, okay, cool, you know, he's experienced, or he's not just panicking, or he hasn't got the Red Bull guy on the phone telling him we need one lap. So that was the first part of the statement from the FIA. Well, it says the first part. It was tucked in at the very end. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're just gonna put some two new race directors, and we're gonna get the old head back. It was like, no, that's the most important headline. They put it at the end of this statement. The next most important part of that statement, the team radio broadcast. Now, as you've seen, since 2020, early 2021, I think it was Monaco, no, Spain. It was Spain, where they started broadcasting the team bosses to the FIA stuff. Now, that was a decision purely on entertainment. There's no technical or sporting value to that, because all it does is kind of show the kind of complaining and any kind of discussion between a manager and an official is only going to be to improve their own team. It's never just like, hey, how you doing, Michael? Yeah, not too bad. It's always going to be complaining. I'll get these guys out of the way, or we need one racing lap, or blah, blah, blah. So it was always brought in to be a kind of entertainment value for the fans. So it worked for a while. It was quite funny hearing people talk back and forth. But as Abu Dhabi proved, like if you stretch it out to the end, like play it out to the very, very end, you can't just pick and choose which bits you like. If you play out to the very, very end, you've got a one-lap showdown between two people, and you've orchestrated that. You're going to have the guy on the phone moaning at you, as Toto was, and in the middle of the most dramatic moment one of the most dramatic moments of Formula 1 history, when Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen are wheel to wheel going into turn 9 on the last lap. And you got Toto go, no, Michael, no. Like that's just silly. So they've got rid of that. So they're not going to broadcast it. They're still going to have it. So people are still the team bosses are still going to be able to talk to the race director or the race directors. But it's going to be a more streamlined process. I think it's going to go into like a call, not a call center, but you know, like someone's going to get it first. They're going to pass it on to the race directors. It's not just going to be like Toto to the race director and then having a chat in the middle of a race, which, as they've proved, doesn't work. Because if you play out to the end and if there's a one-lap championship and it's really important, you don't want Red Bull and Mercedes on the phone to the guy influencing decisions, which is what happened, and they've just said that's what happened. So, yeah, the two decisions they've made so far: get rid of Michael Masi and no more broadcasting of team radio. They're two mistakes that were made. So if you just roll that back, basically they're just saying, okay, cool, this is what went wrong in Abu Dhabi. This shouldn't have happened. So it's kind of good closure for everybody, not just Hamilton fans or any, like, it's good closure for everyone to know, right? And all the neutrals, however many there are of you watching, what you saw wasn't right, and at the time we knew it wasn't right. We're like, what on earth just happened there? And now FAA have just said that wasn't right. We're going to change that. That wasn't right. We're going to change, which is good. I mean, I'm surprised actually they've just come out and gone, right, here's a statement. Those two things can't happen again. We'll get rid of them. Something else that happened last year, well, didn't happen last year, that they're going to implement now, is a virtual race control, so basically like VAR for Formula 1, which is, this is the only part of this statement where I was kind of like, because all the other stuff is like, okay, cool, makes sense. The VAR stuff makes sense in theory, but as you know, or don't know, it's a nightmare in football. It's not good. Like it works sometimes, but when they try and over-apply it, it's gonna be a problem. But I think coming from where they've come from, or Abu Dhabi last year, I don't think they're going to apply it too strict. I don't think they're going to try and literally militantly go, right, yeah, no, he went wide on turn 9, delete him. I don't think it's going to be as bad as that. I mean, watch this space. I might have to clip this and play it back sometime in the season. I feel like they're going to be quite liberal with that. They're not going to want to over VAR it in response to last year. I think bringing it in is probably like, appease the fans or appease some of the fans. But I don't think they're going to literally start really breaking down and pausing Formula 1 to make change. Maybe they will. Who knows? I mean, we'll see how that goes. But That in theory is going to be good, but there's no information. All they said is going to be a new virtual race control room, similar to VAR in football. It will assist the race director in the application of the rules. So basically it's going to be a team of people with the sporting regulations and with some experts in there. So when something happens, they can be like, okay, cool, let's check the sporting regs. Yeah, they're not allowed to do that. Bang. Rather than Michael Masi kind of going, I'm pretty sure I can do that. Yeah, cool. And that's basically that's what happens. So all these things are really good closure. Well, me personally, and maybe a lot of you as well. And finally, another kind of like thing they slipped in. This is good. This statement is obviously in order, but I'm reading it in a different order in terms of my importance. But the last thing, which is obviously the second thing on this particular one, is the procedures related to unlapping of cars during the safety car period will be reassessed. So this statement, right? This statement is just, we're sorry, guys. We're sorry. We screwed up. We're very sorry. Here's all the things we screwed up on in one race. Almost, everything happened. Yeah, every single thing on this list, right, is basically a remedy to what happened in Abu Dhabi, which is crazy if you think that there's 5 things. Well, there's not 5 different things, but there's a whole raft of things that are now being like, all right, cool, we need to change that. But in theory, you should have just not broadcast the race communications anyway, because you knew they were getting out of hand. You should have had more people supporting Michael Masi in the first place, because he was obviously making mistakes from Saudi Arabia and from previous seasons. And the unlapping of cars in the safety car period, we all knew the rules anyway. He just decided to do his own thing. He started to freestyle and go, nah, let's mix this up. So it's great. Like my overall thing is, this is actually, all jokes aside, this is actually amazing. Like having a full list of things saying race control, there's going to be no broadcast communications, there's going to be 3 people. So they're kind of fixing all these things, which I really, really like. So yeah, the president's come out and announced all these things, which is, sets him up quite well, because he's obviously come in and taken action and said, right, this is what we need to do, and this is where we went wrong. So as far as Abu Dhabi goes, I'm basically like, I personally am just like, yeah, cool, sweet. Obviously, it will happen. People make mistakes. Go back in all this. I mean, anyone who watches sports, you can name hundreds of things that went wrong. Handball, Henry's handball against Ireland. Red cards everywhere, goals that should have been given, England, like, you can go on for days. Oh, that was wrong. Yeah, we know that was wrong. So how do we make sure that there wasn't an Henry handball against Ireland every single year? So just, get the VAR in there, get people with more eagle eyes looking at decisions. So this is great. A really, really good idea. And I'm pleased that they've decided to change it up. Sprint races have also changed in the last week. Now, changed slightly, or the format. So there's still gonna be 3, which is good, because I don't think having 2, especially with the next bit I'm going to announce, especially with all that kind of stuff, I think 3 is fine, and spread it out. So we've got Imola in race 4, Austria at race 11, and Brazil at race 22. So you've got a nice kind of spread between across the season. So we're not going to get a sprint race every single week, and it's not crazy. Now, the crazy part is they're going to start awarding 8 points for a win, which is like, it's fascinating to think. Like, 8 points really does mix things up, and it really does make people actually try. And now there's a top 8, so you get points for the top 8. It's not just, because top 3 last year, there's only 4 cars that are going to go for points there. So everyone else, Vettel and Alonso, and even some of the McLarens are probably sitting there thinking, let's just not crash out and just do our thing. Now you've got points. You come 5th in a sprint race. That's 4 points. 4 points is, 4 points is quite hard to get if you're not that good at a car anyway. So this is going to really change things up. I think changing the points is more important than changing the actual format of the weekend. If you say, right, we're going to do a little sprint race, 18 laps I think it was, so it's about a third distance. It's not, it's pretty good. Pretty good in terms of points distribution, and it's 1 point difference. So you're not losing too much if you drop a position, so that might encourage more wheel-to-wheel racing as well. So if you say first to third, there's only a 2 point drop. So if you spin off, you drop a couple of positions, you haven't lost like 15-20 points like you would in the real race. So that will actually make things very interesting. I'm quite impressed by that. A small change they've made is the pole position. Like, I guess many of you were wondering, the pole position is now going to be the actual technical, Wikipedia or the actual award is going to be Friday. So Friday qualifying, regular qualifying session, 1 lap, blast round. Whoever gets pole position is going to be awarded pole position. Now the problem is, as you know, with the sprint weekend, if you qualify fastest on Friday in the qualifying session, you start the sprint race at the front. If you come 4th in the sprint race, you're going to start the race in 4th place, but you've still got pole position. So that is probably, I don't know if that's as confusing as the previous one, where if you win the sprint race, you get pole position. So I guess what they're doing is they're splitting, because last year they had the qualifying was essentially qualifying and sprint. It's like a 2-part qualifying. It's like Q1 was qualifying and Q2 was the sprint race. Then you actually start the race. So now what they've done is, rather than having that segment, they've gone that segment. So they've said, right, qualifying is qualifying. That's your actual bread and butter. And then the actual race will be decided by your sprint and qualifying. So they've kind of shifted the focus downwards, and they've gone back to whoever can whip around the track the fastest on 1 lap is the quickest. That should be how it should be. Like, winning a sprint race shouldn't be, that's not a pole, because pole positions, let's say Leclerc wins another 100 sprint races, and then Hamilton's got 100, like, if it's like, they're not the same thing. Winning a sprint race is not the same as getting a pole position. The whole point of pole position is you set the car up to go as fast as you can for 1 lap, and whoever can drive the car the fastest for 1 lap gets the pole position. It's quite an important list, Senna and Schumacher and Hamilton. There's a reason why it's quite revered, very well respected. It's because these guys can whip around the track with the cars turned up to the max on their own. Just who can drive the car the fastest. That's very kind of basic time trial stuff. Who's the fastest driver, rather than who can go wheel to wheel and manage fuel or manage tires, and who's got the best team strategy and weather and all that kind of stuff. Pole position is quite an important thing. So they've kind of made it a bit more important by taking it out of the out of the hands of the sprint race, which I didn't agree with. But obviously, if you're going to start the actual race itself on a Sunday from first place, that's technically pole position. You're on pole position. So I don't know. But yeah, like I said, the points distributions can be changed 8-1, which is dramatic, very, very dramatic. I mean, I'm interested to see, and luckily there's only 3, so there's only 24 points in the season, which changes things up. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I worked out there's 622 points available this year. So you obviously got 23 races, 575 for winning every single race, 23 for the fastest lap, and now 24 for sprints. So there's a lot of points to be gained outside of just winning the race now, which is good. People can come. I mean, if you lose the race on a Sunday, but if you've won the sprint race, you get fastest lap, you've actually come out of the weekend better. So it does add a lot of dynamics, a lot of different permutations throughout the season. It will keep the title race interesting for a longer time, because you can be in the lead, and even if you win the race on Sunday, if there's a sprint race and you lose fastest lap as well, you could end up with a deficit. You can win the race. The winner of the race on Sunday might not have the most points in that weekend, which is interesting. I mean, we'll see how that plays out. I mean, that could be very interesting. You could end up losing ground if you just lose a sprint race. So that's going to be very interesting. I'm excited to see that. One little, well, not little, it's actually quite big, but it wasn't that big a thing at the time until it was applied so incorrectly. I'm waffling. Belgium Grand Prix. Obviously, the Belgian Grand Prix that wasn't, they decided to do 2 little laps just to fulfill this weird sporting regulation that if you get 2 laps of any description, it counts as a race, you get half points, which is obviously, at that time, gave Verstappen a win. Russell got P2 in that one, and Hamilton got P3. That's where the stupid half points things came along. They've got rid of that. Another great announcement from the FIA. So they've said no points will be awarded unless a minimum of 2 laps have been completed by the leader without a safety car and or virtual safety car intervention. That little segment basically says, see Belgium, can't happen again. But we knew this at the time. Like, we were like, you can't just do 2 bogus laps behind the safety car and call it a race. Like, we knew that at the time. So it's weird why it takes this long. They make a terrible decision, I mean, both of these decisions that have been made, Max Verstappen won these races. So conspiracy theories have at it. Verstappen won both of these races, and now they've gone, actually, see those 2 races Verstappen won? He shouldn't have won either of them. But I'm just a messenger. I'm just giving you the news. You can do what you want. It's not my job to promote conspiracy theories. I just give you the facts, and those are the facts. And now they've said here, obviously you've got to complete more than 2 laps. But if you get less than 25, so basically, if a Belgian part 2 happens, and they can't do any laps, they won't give out points, which makes sense. If a Belgian part 2 happens and they manage to get 2 little squirrely laps out, but that's it, they're going to award 6 points for the winner, which, okay, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. So obviously there's basically no race anyway, essentially. But in my head, people who finish, P6, P7, I mean, you're losing. I mean, obviously, you're only getting 2 points for coming 4th in that, whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it a race. I mean, that's a good compromise, because if you're getting, 25% is quite a lot. I mean, that's up to 15 laps in some tracks, like Spa, 15, 16, 17 laps. If you do 17 laps of wet running, and you're telling me if you finish 3rd on the road in that particular thing, you get 3 points. That's pretty harsh, but I don't know. I mean, it's a compromise. It is a compromise. And then obviously, if you more than 25 but less than 50, it's half points. But then they've smoothed it out, so you don't get that 222.5 thing, which I just hate it. So now they've gone 13, 10, 8, blah blah blah. So like, it makes more sense to not give half actual points, because half points is just like it's just forever now on the scoreboard. It just looks, Hamilton and Verstappen's all-time points total is just a mess. I'm not a fan of it at all. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Because they're basically, like I said, in the last week, they've just come out and said, right, this is everything we did wrong, which is good. I mean, that's it's a good it's a good life lesson for everybody. They've just come out and gone, right, this is where we went wrong. Obviously, there's no the only person that's really lost out is Michael Masi, but they've gone, right, this is where we went wrong. All the things you guys knew when you watched it at the time was wrong. Yeah, you're right. This is how we're going to fix it. The results still the same, which is probably, commercially, mentally for some people, damaging, but I guess it's all you can do. I mean, you make the decision at the time. There's pressures, external pressures, there's commercial, there's sporting, and there's just pressure. You're sitting there with the eyes of the world on you, whether it's Abu Dhabi or Spa, and you got to make a decision in real time, and it's going to affect people. Hopefully now they've got a process in mind where the decision making is made a little bit easier, because there's more rules in place. There's more obvious, you can't do this or you can't do that in place. Car reveals. The car reveals. Let me take a sip of water for this. It's been a fun couple of weeks. I'm not gonna lie. Now, I've never really paid attention to car reveals, mainly because I've never had to talk about what the cars look like or what I think, or there hasn't been a regulation change like this, certainly since I've been watching. So this year, the car reveals are more of like, it's almost like there's a brand new sport coming in, and all the engineers have been drawing their little cars, putting them together, and a month before you need to show your work, but you still got a month till you actually have to do the work. So you're not going to say, right, this is our very clever diffuser thing. This is our very clever rear wing. See the way it does that? That's really good. And Mercedes go, okay, very interesting. We're going to copy that. So everything, most stuff you've seen the last couple of weeks is a fugazi. It doesn't exist. So starting with the Haas was the first one I showed you last week. Not a very good looking car, but it was a livery reveal, and they've been very clever. So most of the stuff in the last 2 weeks have been livery reveals, which means the wrap, the sponsors. That's basically all they're really revealing. They're revealing who's sponsoring the car, the colour scheme of the car, and what the car should look like broadly, obviously wrapped on a different body. Now, where the line's getting blurred is they're revealing cars, but they're kind of also not revealing them at all. They're just using the show car that we saw years ago and just putting their decals on it, they're putting their sponsors on it, their colour schemes on it, and going, right, this is the car. And everyone on Twitter, I mean, I follow loads of engineers on Twitter, they're like, the push rod suspension is here height. I'm like, that's not even the car. That's just the car we saw last year. They're not actually going to show you, this is our suspension, this is our ride height, this is our front wing. They're not going to show you that. So analysing the cars is pointless. Now, analysing how good they look is not pointless. And there's been a few, Ferrari, that have looked really, really good. So Red Bull were first. Well, since the last time I posted, this is what it looks like. This is the updated version with their new sponsors by Bit. I think it's a crypto sponsorship. I think it's $150 million. Crypto's everywhere. It's everywhere anyway, but it's going to be everywhere in Formula One as well. This is it's a good looking car. I mean, I do like the very long yellow nose, and the sponsors do look good on it. The number one is quite cool. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of a bit like, I don't know, I felt type of way about Max decided to go with number one. It's kind of like a ego-driven thing, but I do like the look. It's cool to have a number one because he's only going to have it for 1 year, so he might as well enjoy it when he's got it. I mean, the car does look good if that is the car. Now at the reveal, Christian did say, I feel like in terms of reading Christian's face, I feel like I've seen him lie so much. Not lie, but just bit of salesmanship, bit of gamesmanship. I know when he's kind of hiding something. Obviously, he was saying, the car now is going to change and change and change. That's basically his way of saying this car, particularly one where they did the reveal, is just not even what the car looks like now, as is going to be the theme throughout the rest of this video. So there's no like, anti-Red Bull thing. Everyone is doing the same thing. Everyone who, everyone, even the people who have put their cars on actual track, the cars are going to change dramatically. Now, before I go with the rest of them, all the cars, they're basically, I've kind of broken it down to maybe like 4 tiers of reveal. There's the car that you bring out, all the renders they call them, so all the computer animated drawings and put togethers. There's that version is just the computer drawing at any point of development. It could have been 2 years ago, it could have been yesterday, it could have been right now. So that's the version it's all mocked up. They can Photoshop. They literally have Photoshopped, suspension arms out of it. They've Photoshopped all this different stuff out of the actual picture and gone, right, this is our car. But not only is it not your car, it's a Photoshopped image with stuff taken off it. So it's just pointless exercise. The next step up would be the in-person reveal. So the version that we see, in the actual, whether it's the factories, wherever they're delivering it, or wherever they announce the car. That's a version which is like, okay, cool. That's at least a real actual automobile that has real front wings and it has real tires, has real rear wings and all that kind of thing. So that's kind of like stage 2, where it's like, okay, that's an actual car. It's not just a drawing. You can't Photoshop a suspension out of a real car. Now the realist so far is the ones that are on track, and you'll see those. I'll post some of them up as well. The ones that are on track are like, okay, cool. That's actually a car that's actually going to go motor racing. So there's a very fine line between, there's different versions. Like I said, there's 3 different versions of car that people have released, and literally some of the, Red Bull are a good example, Mercedes also, and Ferrari to a degree. Aston Martin have been quite consistent throughout. But anyway, here's Aston Martin. This is the next one. Now Aston Martin stole the show because, at that point they had stolen the show because the Red Bull looked the same as last year. Big long yellow nose, cool, fair enough. The Aston Martin was a real car, and then they said, I think Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Mercedes said they were going to actually release an actual car, an actual updated 2022 car. Obviously, it's going to change again, but this is what it looked like this is a picture of it in the actual factory. Now, as you can see, as I think a lot of people who are fans of Aston Martin, this is the right colour green, in my opinion, in terms of the main body. This is the right colour green for Aston Martin. The last year's was like a grey, kind of dull kind of like matte grey green sort of colour. It wasn't really a nice colour at all. This is shiny, nice green with the light green tips. That front wing is silly. Like everything about this car was, I mean, even on track. I'll bring up the one that's on track. Like it's just nice. It's flat. I think I just like the shark fin at the back's gone. The rear wing is flat now, and the front wing is curved up because you want to get the air over and over across that back, that middle, that fat bit in the middle, Coke bottle they're calling it. So Aston Martin stole the show at this point. McLaren were next. Now this again was the one in the actual factory, so the actual display. Again, there's a lot of colours. I mean, I didn't like it initially. I thought there was a bit too much blue on it, but then I realised, you know, the special edition they ran at Monaco was heavy blue, and I think that's what people like. They've probably fed into that a little bit. The orange is cool, the papaya orange. It's these wings, man. It's the wings. It just looks like an arrow. I think these cars, that's the simplest way of putting it. AlphaTauri, this is just a render because we haven't seen the actual car in this description on a racetrack yet. I haven't got a picture of it anyway. Again, quite a mid-looking. It's just like a crappy blue and white. I mean, the white is kind of cool, but again, it's not that pretty a car in my humble opinion. Williams, big fan of this Williams car. I like that. I like that nose, the curved nose, and the very royal-looking blue. And again, I think they should all just test in the wet. Obviously, these are all at Silverstone, where it's been raining this last week. Unless you've been living under a rock, this blue I'm a big fan of. Obviously, I don't know how, there should be probably a bit more white on it if it's Williams, but big fan of that blue. Really big fan of the blue. Now, obviously, at this point, we're thinking, right, Aston Martin running away with it. They're going to have the prettiest looking car. Enter Ferrari to steal the show. I mean, look at that. I mean, it's the red and the black. It's that combo, because I think the white. I mean, the white is pretty classic as well, but yeah, this is obviously the one in the actual factory, the actual real display car, because they've brought out pictures like this of, I mean, even these are naughty as well, to be fair, of the computer generated images, which looks good, but again, until you see the color in real life, you can't really judge what it's going to look like. Obviously, a red in a computer generated image is going to look good. If you chuck a red in real life with that red backdrop, it's levels. I mean, so this was definitely the clubhouse leader. Most people's favorite car. I did a poll. I think it was like 73% of you guys had Ferrari. Big fan of this Ferrari car. big fan of this Ferrari car. Next was yesterday. Mercedes-Benz. This was this is a good example of literally releasing two cars at the same time. This is the car they released in person. So this is actually the live version in the actual garage when they released it in Silverstone. Now this car is completely different to the one they released online. Completely different. This is a kind of an image of the front on version of it. Now you can tell by the shark fin on the Silverstone picture, the shark fin at the back, on the back of the Ineos, that goes all the way back. Now I haven't got the image of it here. Maybe I'll be able to find it. But the shark fin on the back of the computer generated image is like cut in half. So and all the different, the underfloor bit as well, the ground effects, Venturi tunnels they call it, at the very, very bottom with that e-performance thing. That was completely different on the actual computer generated image. So yeah, as we cycle through, I mean, I was surprised how good this looked actually. I think until I saw that the turquoise blue on the back, I wasn't really mad about it, but it's the red, it's a lot of colours on it. There's a lot of colours. I mean, I like the red tips. The rear wing looks nice. And we're back to silver again. I mean, obviously going to have, George Russell's going to have a slight red on his helmet, so you'll be able to see him quite easily when you're looking on the TV pictures. I'm a fan. It's in the wet as well. It looks really good. So I think for me, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Mercedes. Probably not in that. I'd probably say Ferrari, my favourite looking car, because my favourite colour is red. Even though I've been not anti-Ferrari, but I grew up as I was a McLaren fan. and then I guess Mercedes. So I've always been competitively anti-Ferrari, but red's always been my favourite car, favourite colour. So I've got a soft spot. That Ferrari is definitely a favourite looking car. I do like the look of Mercedes. I like that. I mean, they all look good. I mean, apart from the Alpha Tauri and the Haas, they're just mid as hell. But all the other ones, yeah, I'm a fan. Next week, 2 weeks time actually, is the event, the Netflix event of the decade. Forget Squid Games, forget flipping whatever what's that show? I've forgotten it. It's lost on the top of my head. Drive to Survive season 4. I mean, I'm gonna watch all of them back to back. Like back in the day, I was like, oh yeah, watch half of them now, watch the rest. As soon as it's out, I'm shutting my phone off and I'm watching all 10 because it's gonna be box office. It's gonna be movie. It's gonna be like Avengers all over again. It's gonna be movie level event because the whole season's gonna be sick. The whole, even from race 1, like there's no like lull. I mean, the only lull is gonna be that bit when Verstappen was dominating in the middle, whereas the Austria back to back, France, just before Silverstone. But that's gonna lead into Silverstone. So it's gonna be a boring, not boring. It depends who you're a fan of. Red Bull have got the best car. Mercedes are struggling. The title race is over. And then Silverstone's going to happen. I mean, the way they're going to edit Silverstone, and forget about Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, America. I mean, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. I cannot wait. I mean, last year was like, okay, cool, it's going to be exciting. But you knew who won. It was kind of, I think this year is going to be more about the actual championship, obviously. Because the other 3 seasons of Drive to Survive you've seen, apart from season 1 was the last Ferrari season where they were trying. So that was actually a bit of back and forth. But the last 2 seasons have just been like a soap opera because there's been no competitive racing on track. So Mercedes have run away with it last 2 years, or the 2 years previous, in season 2 and season 3. So all the stuff has been all the Toto and Christian Horner, Karen Horner, the Ricciardo stuff, all the background stuff, all the stuff with Grosjean. So the actual racing has taken a back seat. So Drive to Survive is going to be pure racing. Obviously, there's going to be racing and there's going to be politics. Because Red Bull, Mercedes were going out all season long on and off the track. So there's going to be all the background stuff. I don't know how they've managed to edit all that content into 10 episodes. If they limit it to 10. 10 episodes of, I think it was only 40 minutes as well. So they might have 10 hour-long episodes. And they need to. I mean, that last one with Abu Dhabi in it. Whoa, what are we going to do about that? But listen, as you can tell, very excited. If you've got this far again, I keep doing it because I know there's a few of you at this stage that are going to get this far. So if you're here this far, you can tell my excitement. That was a news roundup. At the beginning, I never said, I wasn't going to do them, but it was during the season, so I was always going to recap the race. Now it's going to be, certainly on Twitter, I keep saying it, follow me on Twitter, so you can see more instant reaction rather than waiting for these videos. Or if you want to not have to watch 40 minutes of me chatting, you can get the recaps on Twitter. It's been fun. It's been fun, guys. Next week, we've got Alpine and Alfa Romeo coming out with their cars, and the first proper cars on track trying to go around in set times. Don't know how much we're going to hear about that. I think they're going to tell us the times at the end of the week or end of the day. And then we'll see who's doing what. As far as predictions, couldn't even tell you. Literally couldn't even tell you. The only thing I probably will tell you, I'll stick my neck out, is I'm going to say Haas. I feel like Haas at Williams, this isn't rocket science. The really, really bad teams aren't going to jump to the front. That's my only general broad prediction. Whether it's Ferrari or Mercedes or Aston Martin or Alpine, I ain't got a clue. Ferrari, one thing I will say is Ferrari are under the most pressure. I think it's Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes. That's my first little sneak peek, because I just don't think it's gonna. Not winning is not good. Winning is the only thing that's going to be acceptable to Ferrari. So I will see you very soon. Thank you for watching.